Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Friday, April 26th, 2019. Today I'm going to recap last night's Stanley Cup and NBA playoffs, look ahead to tonight's slate, and I will pick round 2 just in case a certain NBA game doesn't go 7 games, or I should say NBA series, as well as go over to baseball from yesterday. But I have to start with the NFL draft last night, round 1. I'm going to go through the grades and the picks and give you analysis on what I think of each pick. Obviously, number 1, Arizona took Kyler Murray from Oklahoma, the quarterback. My grade for them is a B because, yeah, we knew that this was in all likelihood going to happen. And the GM did come out and say, Josh Rosen's our quarterback for now. Now, Rosen will probably be traded tonight, maybe to Miami, maybe to a random team we're not even thinking about. And Murray will go in and be their starting quarterback next year. I think he'll be a good quarterback. He'll be somebody that's exciting to watch with his mobility. And short quarterbacks seem to have some success of late. Just see Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson. I give the grade of B because I think that there's a world out there where Josh Rosen can thrive under Cliff Kingsbury, and they could have gone with Nick Bosa or Quinn Williams to improve their pass rush, and instead they end up taking Cliff Kingsbury's boy in Murray. San Francisco, Nick Bosa, the defensive end from Ohio State, I give them an A+. Best player in the draft falls to them at number 2. They are definitely doing backflips there. He immediately improves their pass rush as well as the addition of D Ford. This is going to be a good team next year, perhaps, with Jimmy Garoppolo coming back. Well, I don't know if playoff good, but certainly good in terms of they won't be picking in the top 5 next year, that's for sure. So I give them an A+. The New York Jets, Quinn Williams, the defensive tackle for Alabama, I also give them an A+. That was a very solid pick by the Jets. They obviously did not trade down like a lot of people thought they would. I thought that if the Jets traded down, it would be a massive mistake, but instead they did the right thing and taking Quinn Williams. The Oakland Raiders take Clelin Ferrell, the defensive end from Clemson, at number 4. I think this was a major reach, so I give the pick a C. I like Ferrell. I think he's going to be a solid NFL player, a good pass rusher, but there are better pass rushers on the board. Devin White, the linebacker from LSU, goes number 5 to Tampa Bay. I gave the pick an A because Tampa Bay filled an important need with the best player at that position available, and Bruce Arians would like somebody like Devin White, and he's a hard worker. I think he's going to be a star player. Number 6, the New York Giants, Daniel Jones, the quarterback from Duke. I'm giving this pick an F. I don't know what Dave Gettleman's thinking. I don't know who is telling him that Daniel Jones is going to be the next Peyton Manning, but I'm sure he's going to be wrong. Daniel Jones is somebody that reminds me a lot of Blake Bortles. This reminds me a lot of similar to when the Bears took Mitch Trubisky over Deshaun Watson, and everybody was outraged. But Trubisky hasn't been terrible. But I think Jones is a backup NFL quarterback at best. I agree with ESPN's Todd McShay and his analysis on Daniel Jones. They pass on Josh Allen, who was the best player left on the board, and Dwayne Haskins, who is the best quarterback in this draft, and take Daniel Jones. I think that Dave Gettleman might be out of a job in a year or two, and heck, I won't be surprised if it's next year or the following year the Giants are either taking Tua Tagovailoa or Trevor Lawrence in one of the next 2 drafts. I'm dead serious. And I think Pat Shurmur is certainly a coach on the hot seat. Dave Gettleman's on the hot seat. And it's because of this pick, I think Gettleman should lose his job, and not just because of this pick. He traded Odell Beckham. He let Landon Collins go for nothing. And there's a lot of other bad decisions that Dave Gettleman has made, which, to me, he deserves a pink slip, and the Giants really shouldn't have hired him in the first place. They should have hired some other guys that were available, and they're such like a family-oriented organization. I don't want to rant about the Giants because this is like a draft-oriented podcast, or for at least most of it. But this is such a horrible pick, and obviously the worst pick of the first round. Although there are some other bad ones too, which I'll get to. Jacksonville Jaguars. Tom Coughlin, the former Giants coach. He has to be doing backflips because his old team decides to pass on Josh Allen, the outside linebacker from Kentucky. The Jaguars get an A+. They get yet another blue chip defensive player. I think the Jaguars will love this kid. The Jaguars are a team to me that is going to be better than last year. I love this pick. He's going to be an impact defensive player. He reminds me of Khalil Mack. And good job by Jacksonville by taking advantage of the best player available. Detroit takes T.J. Hockenson, the tight end from Iowa. I give them a B- because I thought they should have gone defense with their pick rather than offense, but they obviously were not spooked by taking a bust tight end a few years ago with Eric Ebron with a top 10 pick, because Hockenson has drawn comparisons to Rob Gronkowski, and they obviously think that he's going to be an immediate impact player for their team. So that pick surprised me a little bit, and I give it a B-. Buffalo took Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle from Houston. I give them a B+. I like Oliver. He's a good player. I think he'll fit in well with that team. He'll have an impact on them, on their pass rush and their defensive line, obviously. I think Buffalo should have gone offensive line, but they choose to go defense instead, or best player available, per se, but it's not a terrible pick. I give it a B+. Pittsburgh trades up to number 10 to pick Devin Bush, the inside linebacker from Michigan. I give them an A. That was an excellent pick. Their defense has been bad since Ryan Shazier got paralyzed a few years ago. So Bush is somebody that's going to come in and I think have an immediate impact. They have some young players on defense that I like. I like Cameron Hayward. I like, obviously, J.J. Watt's brother, T.J. Watt. I couldn't think of his name. And I really like Bush, and I think he'll have an impact on their defense. So that was an excellent pick by by Pittsburgh. And obviously now they have to address their need at wide receiver. And they would, in my opinion, have a fantastic draft. The Cincinnati Bengals take Jonah Williams, the offensive lineman from Alabama. I give the pick an A-. Good job, Cincinnati. You took the best offensive lineman on the board. Your offensive line is not very good. So you give Andy Dalton some protection. So, good job by Pittsburgh for trading up to get the guy that Cincinnati wanted. But Cincinnati, to me, I'm not disappointed in this pick at all. I think Williams is going to be a solid pro. I think he'll be a Pro Bowler on their offensive line, something that the Bengals haven't had in a while, a good offensive lineman, like Pro Bowl style. And maybe they'll address their other needs tonight and Saturday. Green Bay, Rashawn Gary, I give them a B+. That was a solid pick by the Packers. Gary is somebody I think is a little overrated because he was obviously the top-rated player in his high school class, and he didn't live up to that status in college. He was a solid college player, and I think he'll come in and bring some athleticism to their pass rush. So I give that pick a B+. They had a need there, so I was okay with that pick. Miami takes Christian Wilkins, the interior defensive lineman from Clemson. I give that pick an A. I think Wilkins is going to be a stud. And Miami needs some blue chippers pretty much all around their team. And I think he'll come in and have an impact. Atlanta takes Chris Lindstrom, the lineman from Boston College, the guard. I give that pick a C+. They're a better offensive lineman on the board, including Andre Dillard of Washington State and Jawan Taylor, who is shockingly still on the board from Florida, But they go with Lindstrom. I think they took him because they know that the Vikings really wanted him at 18. I give the pick a C+ because I think they reached there. Although I think Lindstrom will be a solid pro. I think the best pick of the first round, other than San Francisco and the Jets, Washington taking Dwayne Haskins, falling to them at 15. I give them an A+. They finally have a franchise quarterback. Finally. And I think Haskins is going to come in and have such an impact, and he's going to make the Giants regret taking him at number 6. And he's really going to be a star in the league. I think there's a chance he's better than some of the quarterbacks that were taken last year. I am very high on this kid. I know expectations are going to be high for him in D.C. And good job by Bruce Allen and Daniel Snyder if they indeed spooked the Giants by lying to them and saying that they wanted Daniel Jones and wanted to trade up for him. 16, the Carolina Panthers. Brian Burns, the edge rusher from Florida State. I give that pick a B. I like Burns. I think he'll be a good pro. I just think that pick was a little predictable. I think that Carolina should have went offensive line, could have taken Dillard, but they decided to go pass rush instead. Don't mind the pick, but I just think that there are better options. New York Giants take Dexter Lawrence with the pick they got from the Browns. He's the defensive tackle from Clemson. A lot of people know him as the guy that got suspended in the college football playoff last year. But hey, I think that's a little irrelevant. That guy is a stud. He's a good ball player, and he's good at stopping the run. He's a big part of what Clemson did. And Clemson was so deep that they won the title without him. And I give the pick a B+. And he is somebody that I think is better than what they have, an interior defensive lineman. So that was a solid pick by Dave Gettleman and company. The Minnesota Vikings take Garrett Bradbury, the center from NC State. I give that pick a B. I think that Bradbury is somebody that the Los Angeles Rams really wanted, or somebody like Tennessee. But Minnesota, I know, wanted Chris Lindstrom, but instead they take Bradbury, who, you never know, might turn out to be a better pro than Lindstrom. I think both those guys are both solid. I don't think Minnesota reached at all. And I give that pick a B. And obviously Minnesota needs linemen, and I think Bradbury would come in and do a nice job. 19, Tennessee Titans, Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle of Mississippi State. I give the pick a B-. I just don't like the fact that he's coming off the ACL injury. I think that was too high of a pick. And I would have been higher on him, obviously, if he didn't tear his ACL. I just get weary of injuries pre-draft. And then there's obviously the video that was going around about him, which is a red flag. So you have to pick a B-. Denver trades back with Pittsburgh in that big deal. The 20. Noah Fant was the pick, the tight end from Iowa. I give the pick a C. I like Fant as a player, but I just think Hawkinson's better. And I think they could have stayed at 10 and took Hawkinson. I know how desperate Pittsburgh was, and they traded up. And that was a good offer for Denver to take. I mean, Fant will have an impact on them offensively, and I think he'll be a nice weapon for Joe Flacco. But I think that Denver had other needs to address. They could have used a defensive back. They could have gone offensive line. But no, they have to settle on a nice piece for their offense. The Green Bay Packers trade up to take Darnell Savage, the safety from Maryland. I give the pick a B. A lot of people like Savage, as do I. I just didn't think that he'd be taken in the first round. He's first-round talent, and good job by the Packers for recognizing that. So I give the pick a solid B. 22, the Philadelphia Eagles. Andre Dillard, the offensive lineman from Washington State. Many folks were high on this kid. He was the fastest rising offensive linemen between now and about a month ago. And the Eagles quietly have an aging offensive line. Jason Peters is getting old. So I give the pick a B. I thought they were going to trade up and take DeAndre Baker from Georgia. They'll get to that in a second. But instead they address the offensive line and take Dillard. The Houston Texans take Titus Howard, the lineman from Alabama State. Philly trade up for Dillard because they knew Houston wanted him badly. I'm giving this pick a D. They're a better lineman on the board. Howard is a nice player, but he played against weak competition. I'm never a fan of FCS players in the first round. Carson Wentz was an exception because he played well against FBS competition when he was in college. So that's a different story. But Titus Howard, come on. You could have taken him in the third round. So I give that pick a D. Oakland takes Josh Jacobs with their second first-round pick at number 24. I give the pick a B+. Best running back in the draft. Jacobs reminds me a little bit of Alvin Kamara for what he can do in the backfield, and he runs the ball well. He was number 3 on Alabama's depth chart, but I think he's the best one of those 3 running backs. The 2 Harrises and then Jacobs, and Nick Saban, for some reason, didn't use him. But a solid pick by John Gruden and Mike Maycock. 25, the Baltimore Ravens. Marquise Brown, the wide receiver from Oklahoma. A lot of people were high on this kid. I personally am not high on him. I gave the Ravens a C. I know they traded back and got an asset for him, but that's not how I grade selections. I grade selections based on the player you take in, and to me, Marquise Brown's a little overrated, and he was more of a product of Kyler Murray than he was an elite wide receiver, and I don't think he's worth the first round there. He could have taken him in the second round. So I give the pick a C. I mean, I get it, that was a need in terms of position, and a lot of teams are high on him. And Lamar Jackson obviously needs downfield threats, and I think Brown will be a solid pro, but not a Pro Bowler. The Redskins trade up to 26 and take Montez Sweat, the defensive end from Mississippi State. He kept dropping because of the heart condition. I give the pick a B+. I think it's risky to take Sweat. He's somebody that's to be a huge boomer bust, just like Rashawn Gary, but I think at this point Rashawn Gary is the safer pick going because of Sweat's heart condition and some of off-the-field stuff as well. But not a bad pick by Washington. I give that a B+. He addresses a need there on the edge for them. And I'm interested to see what they do tonight. I'm just interested to see what everybody does tonight. 27, Oakland Raiders is the pick they got from Dallas in the Amari Cooper trade. Jonathan Abram, the safety from Mississippi State. B+ is the grade. A lot of people thought that this guy was the best safety in the draft. So I gotta award them for that. And I think that some other teams wanted Abram that were picking below the Raiders, so the Raiders decided to snag him at 27. So good job. 28, Los Angeles Chargers, Jerry Tillery, the defensive tackle from Notre Dame. Solid pick. I give that an A. He's just somebody that would fit them perfectly. He's versatile. He played good alongside Joey Bosa. And they have a lot of good young blue chippers on defense, and I like that for the Chargers going in the next year. 29, the Seattle Seahawks, LJ Collier, the defensive end from TCU. This is a D-. This is a terrible pick. The only reason why the Giants get an F for Daniel Jones is because they passed on pass rushers and Dwayne Haskins. But Collier, to me, was not a day one draft pick. And he's somebody that just not a fan of. And I give that a D-. Like, that was just an awful pick by Pete Carroll in my mind. And I just think that there are better options on the board. I mean, if Montez Sweat fell to them, that would have been fantastic. And it could have gone offensive line. I mean, I could have given Seattle an F, but I understood the need. And just like the Giants, I understood the need, but they took the wrong guy. Like, I feel very confident in that. And I think Seattle took the wrong guy, too. But I just think that they deserve a D- and not an F. 30 New York Giants, they trade back up into the first round with the Green Bay Packers and take DeAndre Baker, the cornerback from Georgia. I give that a B+. That was a really good pick. I think that Baker was one of the more underrated corners in the draft. He's played in big games before, and I like that about him. And I like that about a lot of guys in this draft. Dexter Lawrence, so the Giants also took Jonah Williams. Anybody from Bama or Clemson I consider a good pick pretty much. Because they all are big game players, and all those guys have thrived. And some guys from Georgia, because that's a new up-and-coming program under Kirby Smart. Oklahoma, I think, deserves a little bit more credit now, because obviously Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray went first last night. But I really like Baker. He's a good player. I thought Baker would possibly be the first corner off the board, but I thought he'd go higher than this. So good job by New York to take advantage and trade up with a couple picks that they had. 31, the Atlanta Falcons, Caleb McGarry, the offensive lineman from Washington, give the pick a C+. Another reach by the Falcons. I mean, Cody Ford's still on the board. He's pretty good. Greg Little, he's pretty good. So, yet again, the Falcons reach with another offensive lineman. So I give the grade a C+. I mean, I think he'll be a good pro, but I don't know if he'll be an all-pro. Oh, and then obviously Juwan Taylor's still on the board. Like, what the heck, Falcons? And last but not least, the New England Patriots take N'Keal Harry, the wideout from Arizona State. Excellent pick. That's an A+ pick. I thought that they would possibly go Marquise Brown, and then Marquise Brown would end up being a Tom Brady product after being a Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield product in college. But nope. Brown goes to the Ravens, and then Harry goes to New England. And I had Harry as my top wide receiver in the draft, and he'll have a really big impact on the Patriots next year. Round 2 is tonight, and there are some really good players still left on the board. Obviously, Drew Lock's still on the board. We'll see if somebody finally makes a move on him. Will Greer's still on the board from West Virginia. Obviously, Cincinnati's been rumored to take a quarterback. Maybe they go that route. I think the Dolphins are poised to trade for Josh Rosen. And then there's the Broncos, who really need a future quarterback as well after whiffing on Paxton Lynch. And I think Joe Flacco is just a stopgap. Matt Miller of Bleacher Report has his latest round 2 mock draft. He has Eric McCoy, the center from Texas A&M, going 33 to Arizona. A.J. Brown of Ole Miss going to the Colts at 34. They had the Jets pick. 35, Oakland Raiders, DK Metcalf. 36, San Francisco, Deebo Samuel. 37, Seattle Seahawks, Greedy Williams. That would be a great pick. Juwan Taylor to the Jaguars at 38. And it's funny because everybody had Taylor going 7th to Jacksonville before the draft. 39, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Rock Ya-Sin from Temple. Not a huge Rock Ya-Sin fan, but he addresses a need in Tampa. 40, Buffalo, Cody Ford, the lineman from Oklahoma. Mac Wilson at 41 going to Denver. 42, Cincinnati, Drew Lock. 43, Detroit, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida. Elgin Jenkins to the Packers at 44. 45, Trayvon Mullen, the corner from Clemson. That's the Rams. 46, Colts, Draymond Jones, defensive lineman, Ohio State. 47, Carolina Panthers, Dalton Risner, offensive line, Kansas State. That's a good pick, after many people thought that that was the Texans' target at 23. 48, Miami Dolphins, Jared Stidham of Auburn. 49, Cleveland Browns, Justin Lane of Michigan State. And in the rest of the second round, Dawson Knox, the tight end of Ole Miss, going 50 to the Vikings. That would be interesting when they're thinking about post Kyle Rudolph life. I wonder how old Kyle Rudolph is. He's still a good tight end in my mind. 51 Tennessee Titans, Irv Smith Jr., the tight end from Bama. 52 Denver Broncos, Tyree Jackson, the quarterback from Buffalo. 53 Philadelphia Eagles, Byron Murphy, the corner from Washington. 54 Jalen Ferguson, the edge rusher from Louisiana Tech. I wouldn't like that pick. Houston needs corners and linemen. Houston again at 55, David Montgomery, the running back of Iowa State. 56, New England, Taylor Rapp, the safety of Washington. 57, Philadelphia Eagles, Miles Sanders, the running back from Penn State. The Eagles have enough running backs. Come on. 58, Dallas Cowboys, Nasir Adderley, the safety of Delaware. 59, Indianapolis Colts, Juan Thornhill, safety, Virginia. That would be a solid pick. 60, Los Angeles Chargers, Connor McGovern, guard, Penn State. 61, Kansas City Chiefs, Lonnie Johnson, cornerback, Kentucky. 62, New Orleans Saints, Paris Campbell, wide receiver, Ohio State. So they would have Campbell, and then they would have Michael Thomas. 63, Kansas City Chiefs, Deontay Thompson, safety, Alabama. That would be a sensational pick. And New England at 64, taking Jashai Polite, the edge rusher from Florida, who some people thought could have been a first-round pick. So that is Matt Miller's latest mock draft of Bleacher Report. Those are some of the notable players still available that I rattled off. On Monday's podcast, I'm going to do a draft recap separate from the weekend's activities, only because the draft is so big. I have to do team grades, more pick grades, and whatnot. So now we'll move on to the Stanley Cup playoffs. There were 2 games last night. The Bruins defeated the Blue Jackets 3-2 in overtime to take Game 1. Obviously, they have a 1-0 series lead. First period, Bruins get on the board first on a goal by Noel Acciari to give them a 1-0 lead. No goals in the second. Columbus back-to-back goals, 13 seconds apart. Brandon Dubinsky's first of the playoffs, 1-1. Pierre-Luc Dubois' second of the playoffs gives the Blue Jackets 2-1 lead. Charlie Coyle's fourth of the playoffs ties up at 2 apiece. And in overtime, 5 minutes in, Charlie Coyle's second of the game, fifth of the playoffs. 3-2 Bruins, your final. Good win for Boston to take Game 1. Blues over the Stars 3-2 to take a 1-0 series lead. Good job by the Blues. Robbie Fabry got the scoring going in the first period, 1-0 Blues. Second period, Jason Spezza ties up at 1 apiece, his first of the playoffs. Vladimir Tarasenko on the power play, third of the playoffs, 2-1 Blues. Third period, Tarasenko again, his fourth of the playoffs, second of the game, 3-1 Blues. Then Jamie Benn on the power play, second of the playoffs, makes it a little interesting at 3-2. Tonight we have 2 games. 7 o'clock NBCSN, the Hurricanes and the Islanders. John Forslund on the call, I think with Pierre Maguire. I'm not sure about that because I've been so draft focused that I really lost focus on who's been calling the hockey and basketball games. But I know that John Forslund's doing play-by-play for this, and I think that is weird because the Hurricanes are a team that doesn't get special treatment very much from the NHL. Normally the Rangers and the Blackhawks normally do when Kenny Albert or Eddie Olczyk and Joe Micheletti get to call their games. And then when Doc Emmerich was the voice of the Devils, then Doc would do Devils games. That would be another example. And then obviously the Mike Breen in the NBA with the Knicks is the other one that happens, I think, way too often in the NBA, regardless of how bad the Knicks are. So back to the hockey. Hurricanes, Islanders. 7 o'clock NBCSN. I took the Islanders in 7. I think that the Islanders will win Game 1. And it'll be an overtime game yet again. 3-2. Let's say that Matthew Barzal scores the game winner. Avalanche Sharks, 10 o'clock NBCSN. I think this is going to be a surprise. I'm going to say the Avalanche win Game 1. I have the Sharks in 7. But I just think the Avalanche win Game 1. That's all. It's just a gut feeling. I think they win 4-2. I don't know. Just a gut feeling. I think the Sharks have a letdown after that overtime win. Just like I think the Hurricanes will have a letdown tonight, actually. That's something I didn't even think about until now. I think the Sharks have a letdown. Avalanche win game 1, but Sharks win the series in 7. So, give me the Sharks, or I'm sorry, the Avs 4-2. On the call, this one I think will be Chris Cuthbert and Joe Micheletti. That's who normally does the Pacific Division second round. And last night, I don't even know who called the 2 games. I know Kenny Albert probably did one. And the other one was probably maybe Doc Emmerich. Or even, could have been Forsland. I don't know. I have to look. And then tomorrow you have 3 o'clock NBC Stars Blues game number 2. I don't know who will be on the call of the game. We'll find out once we know. So I'm going to say the Blues take a 2-0 series lead. I had them in 6, so I think the Blues win 4-2. Blue Jackets Bruins 8 o'clock NBC. I'm going to say this is Doc Emmerich, Eddie Olczyk, Pierre McGuire. I think that the Bruins win game 2 and go up 2-0 as well. And then Sunday, Hurricanes Islanders 3 o'clock NBC. John Forsland on the call, probably with Pierre McGuire or Brian Boucher. So I'm going to say that the Hurricanes actually rebound and win game 2, and that'll be a 1-1 series. Avalanche Sharks Sunday, NBCSN. I think the Sharks lose tonight but win on Sunday. I'm going to go with that as my prediction. NBA, last night, Spurs over the Nuggets 120-103. Spurs force a all-or-nothing game 7. LaMarcus Aldridge, 26 points. DeMar DeRozan had 25. Derek White had 13. Bryn Forbes had 12. Off the bench, Rudy Gay had 19. For Denver, listen to Nikola Jokic. 43 points, 12 boards, 9 assists. That's sensational, even in a losing effort. Jamal Murray had 16. Gary Harris had 14. Paul Millsap had 12. And Denver better be ready for Saturday night. Tonight is a fascinating game. 10 o'clock at ESPN. Warriors Clippers. Mike Breen, Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson on the call. That's a lock because they've been doing a lot of this series. And I feel good about that one. I'm going to say that the Warriors close them out tonight. This is a great run for the Clippers. I know regardless of what happens tonight, this is Ralph Lauer's final game as the voice of the Clippers. He's going to be honored at the Staples Center tonight, and rightfully so. Fans are going to give him the love he deserves, but the Warriors will come out on top. I think they'll be competitive throughout. I think the Warriors win, let's say 128-116, and they pull away late in the fourth quarter like they did on Easter. All right, Saturday you have 2 games. Game 1 of the second round, 76ers Raptors, 7:30 TNT. I don't know who will be on the call this. I'm going to say it's probably going to be Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller. I'm going to say that the Raptors win in 6 games, and they'll win game 1 and cover the point spread. I'm going to say they win 118-110 in game 1, and they'll win the series in 6. The Spurs and the Nuggets, 10 o'clock TNT. Game 7, Marv Albert, Chris Webber, I assuming is on the call because they would normally like Marv Albert on a Game 7. And I think that's good for TNT if they decide to put Marv there, which I think they will. I think the Nuggets will win this game. I had Nuggets in 7 as my prediction. I'm going to stick to it. I know that my podcast guest, Ryan Berger, from the other day said Spurs in 7. I disagree with him. I think the Nuggets are going to come out and have their breakthrough moment and get to the second round to take on the Portland Trailblazers. So give me the Nuggets here, and I think they win by... I'm going to say the Spurs cover, actually. I'm going to say it's going to be like a 110-105 low-scoring game. Denver pulls it away late from the free throw line, and the Spurs get the backdoor cover. And then Sunday, you have 1 o'clock ABC, Celtics Bucks. This is going to be a phenomenal series. You have Giannis, you have Kyrie Irving, you have obviously the rejuvenated Gordon Hayward. Al Horford's playing well. Jaylen Brown's playing well. We'd see how Jason Tatum does. They'll miss Marcus Smart, I think, more in this series because they need somebody like him to help out and guard the Bucks backcourt, which they might be getting Malcolm Brogdon back for. And obviously Chris Middleton's been good. Brook Lopez has been a solid big man for the Bucks. And I really didn't get into the 76ers Raptors series in depth. I'll do that in a second. So, obviously the best player in the series is Giannis. So, I'm going to take the Milwaukee Bucks in 7 games over the Boston Celtics. I think that this has been a very weird year for the Celtics. Like, weird decision making by Brad Stevens in terms of lineups. I won't be surprised if they win this series and make the Eastern Conference Final and perhaps go to the finals and win it all, but I don't think that's happening. I think the Bucks are just poised to finally break through and win a series of significance. This is Giannis' moment. He's the MVP. I love the Bucks in 7 games over the Celtics, and like again I said, it will not surprise me at all if the Celtics win the series. Just in case the Warriors close out tonight, they'll be playing the Houston Rockets. And they'll be 3:30 ABC from Golden State. Oh, and the Milwaukee's favored by 7.5. I'm going to say that the Bucks win and cover game 1 barely. I'm going to say they win 125-1 and 125-116. Clippers Warriors, obviously, or Rockets Warriors, which I think will be. It'll be Mike Breen, Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy on the call. Celtics Bucks, I think, will be Mark Jones and Hubie Brown. They'll give Mike Breen and company the West. And I really think that Houston's going to be playing on Sunday in Oracle Arena. And they'll be motivated to play the Warriors, who have been very vulnerable, and they're beatable. No DeMarcus Cousins. I did my playoff predictions, assuming that nobody significant on the Warriors would get hurt. I don't feel good about it, but I'm going to take the Warriors to beat the Rockets the 2nd straight year in what most people think is the de facto Western Conference Finals. Even people saying the de facto NBA Finals, I'm not going to go that far because obviously the East winner, I think, is capable of beating the Warriors. That's my opinion. I love the Bucks. The Celtics, if they live up to potential, they have a chance. And obviously should have won on that Saturday night game against the Warriors, and what many people thought was the finals preview a few months back. So, I am going to ride with the Warriors. I think they win in 6 rather than 7, and they win in Game 6 in Houston, just like the Spurs did a few years back. And I obviously think that James Harden will have a big series. Chris Paul will be motivated. Clint Capella's going to get his points and rebounds and blocks because the Warriors now have a weakness in the middle. But I'm going to say that the hot shooting of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant will prevail, and the Warriors beat the Rockets in 6. I just made my Raptors in 6 pick over the Sixers. I do think the Sixers have a chance. I think that this series would be a 7-game series if I was convinced that Joel Embiid was not 100%. Which he's not 100%, so I think it'll go 6. And I think the Raptors win. Kawhi Leonard, I think, has brought something that this team hasn't had, which is big game experience and thriving in big games. I know the Raptors have the experience from the last couple of years, but they've never really won a signature game beyond the first round before, because they got swept by LeBron the last couple of years. Now LeBron's gone, and they have the guy on their team that is excellent at defending LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard, and I think he brings a lot of a different culture to their team. Nick Nurse has done a great job. Marc Gasol's been a solid addition, and they got him for nothing, literally. And I praise the Raptors for that trade. I'm going to continue to sing the praises for that trade unless he gets hurt or if he's just suddenly disappears. Serge Ibaka's rejuvenated. Pascal Siakam's turned into a good two-way player that might win the most improved player. Obviously for Philly, I talked about Embiid's health. Tobias Harris has been great in the playoffs after a subpar Game 1. Jimmy Butler's been the hot and cold. Ben Simmons had a big series against the Nets after Brooklyn was booing the hell out of him. Their bench is pretty good. JJ Redick's been in big games with the Clippers before. And I just think that the Raptors bench is a little better, even though they don't have OG Anunoby. That makes me a little nervous. Maybe he will be back for the series. You never know. But, like I said, Raptors in 6, but I don't feel good about this pick. This is the pick, actually, I feel the least confident in, even though I'm not confident in Warriors in 6 either. Before I go, and before Best Bet, I'm going to do baseball. I'm just going to do scores in winning pitcher, losing pitcher. Diamondbacks over the Pirates 5-0. Diamondbacks 15-11. Pittsburgh 12-11. Zach Greinke to win. Jameson Taillon the loss. Dodgers over the Cubs 2-1. Dodgers 16-11. Chicago 12-11. Pedro Baez the win. John Lester the loss. Kenley Jansen gets his 8th save of the year. Reds over the Braves 4-2. Cincinnati is 10-14. Braves are 12-12. Luis Castillo the win. Julio Teheran the loss. Rafael Iglesias the save. Marlins over the Phillies 3-1-10. Marlins 8-17. Phillies 13-12. Winning pitcher for the Marlins, Tayron Guerrero. Hector Neris the loss. He's 0-1. Sergio Romo gets his 4th save of the year. Red Sox over the Tigers 7-3. Red Sox 11-15. Detroit 12-12. Rick Porcello gets his first win. He's 1-3. Jordan Zimmerman drops to 0-4, and he's hurt, by the way. Indians over the Astros 2-1. An excellent win for the Indians. They're 14-10. Houston's 15-10. Trevor Bauer's 3-1. Garrett Cole, a disappointing 1-4. Brad Hand gets his 7th save of the year. Mariners over the Rangers 14-2. An impressive win for Seattle. They're 17-11. Texas is 12-12. Marco Gonzalez gets the win. He's 5-0. And the losing pitcher dropping the 0-1, Taylor Hearn. And last but not least, Angels over the Yankees 11-5. Angels improved to 10-16. Yankees dropped to 14-11 after winning 6 straight games. Yankees are just due to lose because they have so many injuries, obviously, and they had a 6-game winning streak. It was bound to come to an end at some point. The winning pitcher for the Angels, Nelly Ramirez. Masahiro Tanaka gets a loss. He drops to 2-2. Tonight's games, you have at 7 o'clock the Padres and the Nationals, Matt Strahm against Max Scherzer. Marlins, Phillies, Jose Urena and Jared Eichhoff. Athletics, Blue Jays, Mike Fiers and Marcus Stroman. Brewers, Mets, Chase Anderson and Jacob deGrom. Rays, Red Sox, Charlie Morton, and starting for the Red Sox making his season debut, Josh Smith. 7:20 Rockies, Braves, Antonio Sensatala and Max Fried. 8 o'clock Indians, Astros, Corey Kluber and Colin McHugh. Tigers, White Sox, Daniel Norris and Carlos Rodon. Orioles, Twins, Alex Cobb and Martin Perez. Angels, Royals at 8:15. Tyler Skaggs and Daniel Duffy. Duffy's making his season debut. Reds, Cardinals, Anthony DeSclafani and Miles Mikolas. Cubs, Diamondbacks at 9:40. Kyle Hendricks and Robbie Ray. 10 o'clock. Pirates, Dodgers. Chris Archer and Heijin Ryu. Rangers, Mariners. Shelby Miller and Yusei Kikuchi. And last but not least, Yankees, Giants. Check this pitching matchup out. James Paxton against Madison Bumgarner. And obviously, in my opinion, a showcase game for Bumgarner because I think the Yankees are going to be interested in him at the trade deadline because of the uncertainty of Luis Severino. We'll do more baseball on Monday's regular podcast. And before I go, I have to do my best bet of the day. This one will be sponsored by FanDuel. Obviously, plenty of games to choose from. A couple baseball games that I really like. And obviously an NBA game I love. A couple hockey games to pick from too. So, should be an interesting slate. So, in the NBA, the Warriors, I'm going to take, obviously, the Bruins over, or I'm sorry, not the Bruins. That's my bad. I'm going to take the Islanders over the Hurricanes. Although, listen, it's a ballsy pick. I'm going to ride with it anyway because I just think that the Hurricanes are going to have a major letdown tonight after a big win for them to advance. So, I'll take the Islanders, although I think it'll be a close game. I just don't think it'll be a blowout because those Hurricane players really thrive themselves. So I'll take the Islanders, I'll take the Warriors. I'm going to take the Phillies over the Marlins. That's not happening again, meaning the Marlins winning. Max Scherzer and the Nats. I'll take DeGrom and the Mets, although DeGrom has struggled this year for some weird reason. Max Fried and the Braves. Martin Perez and the Twins, although I don't feel good about it. The Orioles have been weird this year. I'm going to take the Cardinals and Miles Mikolas only because I just don't like the Reds in St. Louis, period, end of story. I'm going to take the Dodgers. That's 9. And I wanted to take the Yankees, but I think that Bumgarner is going to put on a show. This is obviously a big payout. It's plus 4,598, so 45.98. I'm only going to wager 98 cents, and the payout would be $46.05. So that's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow Monday recapping the rest of the draft on a separate podcast, but on my regular podcast there'll be playoffs for both NBA and Stanley Cup, baseball. I'll do a little draft, but I'm going to do in-depth draft on my separate podcast, and then obviously my best bet for Monday as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.